Hello, and welcome now to what lecture have we got? Lecture 50, the big 50. That's cool. We're making some real progress with this now, it's great to see. So, like I said, we're pretty much done now with all our modelling, and hopefully now you've got a good grip, a good grasp of basic modelling. And I think it was a great thing to do this sofa, so that you also learn to do sort of soft upholstery surfaces, not just hard surfaces. So I guess we could call this now the sort of the second part of the course now, starting to look at making our model now look really realistic, bringing in some nice textures and some nice lighting, and creating the lighting in our room, and of course importing assets to populate our scene. So let's make a start at this. So the first thing we really need to do is go from layout, or you might have done this in modeling, it's up to you, and come on over now to shading. Let's click into the shading. And what these tabs up here are is basically presets. So shading has been set up for us so that we've got a nice user interface to be able to apply our textures. This here is where we'll create our node textures. And when we start creating nodes at the start, they'll seem a little intimidating because it's not an easy thing to learn, if I'm honest, learning nodes, but you'll quickly get a grasp of it and you'll be flying with it, don't worry. And we'll take it nice and slow together. Over here on the left, just hit this little drop down here, and I don't really want to be in image editor, I want to be in UV editor. There we go, and I'll explain why after. And over here on this side, let's hit the little camera here so we can set up how we're going to render our scene, how we're going to display in our user interface. Let's go from Eevee to Cycles, which is the type of render engine we're going to use. And here in the viewport settings, let's hit denoise. And Blender, as standard, has the samples surprisingly high in your viewport display, and I've never quite understood why. So I'm going to bring this down really far. I'm going to bring this down to around 20 or 30. We're in the early stages of rendering our scene. And from my point of view, I don't really need to take that really high to get an understanding of how the textures are going to look. The higher the viewport samples, the harder your computer's working. It's constantly rendering. So we'll keep this quite low. Again, I'm trying to make this course so that everyone can follow it, not just people with sort of supercomputers. So this is why I do this. If you've got a powerful computer, then maybe you want to go ahead and up this some more. But I'm going to keep this quite low. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is the settings for this light that you can see in the background. And this blurred, weird background is what we call a HDRI image. It's a high dynamic range image, and what that is it's a photograph, a 360-degree panoramic photograph, which contains all the information about the light in the scene as well. So it has the direction of the sunlight, the colors within the sun. So all these shadows that you see now being cast onto our model is from the HDRI image, the light that's being generated from that. If we come up here now and actually click on this little drop down, there's a few things that we can do here. The first thing we can do is reduce the blur of our HDRI, and we can actually see what we've got here. And now you can see the HDRI image of what this actually is. So this is quite a low resolution HDR image as a standard image within Blender. So we're going to change this in our rendered viewport. We're not going to use this one. But for just using in here, it's absolutely fine. The other thing that we can change is the opacity, which I think is quite a good thing to do. So for me personally, as I'm modeling, I have the opacity at the bottom. I don't need to see that HDRI. In my opinion, it's just distracting. I need the lights from it, but I don't need to see the actual image. But for a minute, I'm going to bring it back after showing you that. The other one is the strength here, so we can reduce the strength of the HDRI or we can increase it. And the other one is the rotation of the HDRI, so we can rotate our HDRI image, and now you can see the shadows changing as the light from the sun is being cast in a different direction. So the HDRI image is rotating, not our model. so that we can actually change the direction of the sunlight being set on it. I'm going to put mine something maybe like that. I think I quite like that. So I'm going to take the opacity down again. And that's kind of it for this one. The next thing I want to go to is our actual rendered version. So let's click on that. And now we're in our full rendered version. So all of a sudden everything's gone super dark in here, and the reason it's gone super dark is we don't have any lights at all in this scene right now. So what we're going to do next is actually create a HDRI from this for this scene, and we'll create a HDRI that we'll be using in our final image. We can't really start applying textures until we've got some lights. So down here at the bottom, just click in this area. So just come over here to this little drop down and just click on this and go to world output, and there we go. And now we're going to create our HDRI. So somewhere in here we should have a first couple of nodes, and there they are. So we have our world output node and we have a background node. The next thing we need to do is bring in an environment texture. So press Shift A as if you were sort of bringing in a cube or something, and now search for environment. And there it is, your environment texture. And go ahead and bring this in. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is I'll just make a square, selecting square around these two. And I'll hit G and I'll bring those over, just create a bit more space between. And now I'm going to press Shift A again. And I'm going to hit the search and I'm going to go for RGB, RGB curves, and I'll bring that in as well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is connect the color here to the color there at the base, and then I'm going to connect the color here to the color here in this background node, and there we go. Everything's gone this really bright pink, and that's Blender's way of saying there's no image applied yet. This is just an empty scene. There's no light in this scene yet. So don't worry, we'll deal with that very soon. Now on the side here, I need to get this bar open here. So I'm just going to press N and we'll get this one open. And if you remember at the very start of this, we did actually download this one here, the Node Wrangler. So I'm going to click on this. And this makes it easier to sort out and apply nodes to our scene. So I'm going to click on this environment texture here, and I'm going to add texture setup. What it's done here for me is it's brought in a mapping node so that we can rotate our HDRI image and we can scale it. And the texture coordinates map, we'll leave that just as it is with generated plugged into vector. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is actually find some nice HDRIs. So I'm going to drag over a website, and there we go. And I'll just get rid of this advertisement thing and I'll expand this. This site is called HDRI Haven, and this is the site I recommend for finding good HDRI images. It's used a lot by people doing this. It's a really popular website and it's absolutely free. All you have to tolerate is some advertisements running at the side. And what's really good about HDRI Haven is you don't need to log in or register with an account. You know, I get tired of having to enter my emails into everything and give my date of birth, etc., my address to create new accounts. This is absolutely free and you don't need to log in or register. So I've already decided on 2 images that I'm going to use, 2 HDRIs, but there's a lot of HDRIs here and it's completely up to you what you use. You have a good hunt through here and see if there's anything that you want to use. There's different environments here, so there's indoor, there's skies, there's coastal stuff, there's everything, partly cloudy, nature, it's all in there. And if you look here, we've got the Blender monkey at the front here. And what this monkey's doing here is it's actually showing you how this HDRI affects models. So you can see this one here, I would say, has got a very flat light. It's letting the actual natural color of the model be itself. It's not affecting the color. And the shadows are basically just non-existent. It's a very ambient light, a very flat light. Right next to it we've got something that's a lot more dynamic, or here too. So we've got extremely long shadows, but also the color of the model has been changed by the light information being held within the HDRI. Like this one here is almost pink because of the light from the HDRI. And you can see as we scroll down, this same thing. Some have nice shadows. I would say this one's quite good actually, because the light in the model is not being affected by the light from the HDRI. It's still keeping its same color, but we do have some shadow detail. So I've kind of already chosen the two that I'm going to use. So the first one is called Canon, believe it or not. And I'll click enter on that. And you can see here that the light is actually very ambient. We're not really creating any shadows from our HDRI, and the colors are nice and natural, not being affected. So for our scenic views from our house, this is the image that I'm going to use. So when we're looking out in our house, when we're animating and seeing our vista, seeing our view, this is the one I'm going to use so that we can see the coastline beneath. And I just think it's a really nice setting. But for lighting our scene, it's not very dynamic. We're not getting many shadows from it. So I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to use another one. So I'll download this one to begin with. So first of all, you can actually choose the file size that you want. So you can go 1K, 2K, right up to 24. HDRI images are large files. They are large files. They contain a lot of information about sunlight, direction of sunlight, all the shadows, and it's a 360-degree high-res image. So yeah, they are big files. So consider carefully what you use. Maybe start on the low side, and if your computer towards the end, when you've loaded the scene up with all your kitchens, your bedroom furniture, your tables, if you've loaded the scene up and your computer's fine, you can always download a larger version and use it. So for start, I'm going to use an 8K, but maybe a 4K might be good. I'm going to go with an 8K. I've got quite a decent PC. I think you can cope with it, but these are the two that I would recommend. So I've already got 8K selected, so I'll go ahead and hit download. And there we go, that's downloaded. And then from there you can actually open it in the download file and put it into whichever file that you're storing all your project files in. Okay, so I'll go back now. And I'm going to search for the other one I'm going to use. And it's called, if I remember, Flat Peak. That's it, Flat Peak. There it is. And I'll click on this and I'll click enter. And there it is, Flat Peak Mountain 2. So we've got some really nice long dynamic shadows. We've still got a reasonably nice scene, lots of clouds in the scene as well to make it interesting. The colours have been affected slightly, but nothing too extreme, so I quite like this image. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to leave it at 8K, and I'm going to hit download. And there we go, it's downloaded that for us. And then I'll go ahead in my own time and put that into my project file. Okay, so I'll drag HDRI Haven out the way, and like I say, you don't have to follow me with the images. You can put in whatever you want. You know, it's completely up to you. It's a very personal thing. So maybe take a while, scroll through HDRI Haven and find an image that suits you. For now I have, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. So I'm going to click on Open, and I'm going to go back, and here it is. So I'm going to start with Rocky Hill above sea. This is the one here, so I'll click on this and I'll go ahead and open image, and there we go, we've got that in the scene, and that's cool. And you can see about the view, I really like this view. I think it suits our house really nicely. To have that as a view from your house, I think that's super cool. So the next thing we need to do is actually just orientate this the way we want it. So if I sort of think about this from where the view will be, so from that balcony, this is actually not too bad, but we're kind of facing this mountain, which is not ideal. So what I'm going to do now is come to this mapping node, and on the Z-axis I'm going to go ahead and rotate this to bring this as we want it, which I'd say is about there, like that. That's kind of where I want the scene to be, something like that. And I'll rotate around now and see what we're looking like. And this is why it's called a cannon scene, because there is a cannon back there in the scene. Maybe this was like Second World War coastal defense or something. I don't know where this image is from. But this is kind of the scene that I want. The next thing I'm going to do is go to the location here in the Z. I'm just going to move this slightly. Whoops. Bring this back down. Bring this back down again, slightly into the negative. Just actually drop this, sort of, so we have some rocky mountains behind our house. And that's our Hdri image. So this is the image that we're going to use for our final sort of renders, which will include our view. This is what we're going to use. But we may use the other one for actually setting up our lights, and any sort of finished renders from, say, this angle looking at the house, we're going to use the other Hdri. So let's bring that in next. So I'll click on this little file here, and it's this flat peak mountain too, and I'll go ahead and open image and take a minute, and you can see now straight away that we have a much more sort of dynamic light. We have shadows in our scene, and we have a stronger light. So from the point of view of actually seeing it from, you know, final rendered image, a little bit of pool, our house, some nice strong light, this is probably a better image. So let's go ahead and look at the rotation on this one now. So I'll swing it around in the Z and see where we want this to be. So I'll just have a look from the front of the house like this, and hit the rotation here and start bringing our Hdri around to see how the light changes on our house, and see how the shadows fall on our house as well. We're starting to get some stronger, slightly longer shadows being applied now. That's a little too dark on our house. And I'd say we're getting close to where we'd like this to be. Keep on rotating a little bit more. And yeah, I'd say that's about nice really. We're getting some nice shadows there like that. And in the location here, maybe I'll just bring this down slightly in the Z and see what that looks like. With some nice shadows in our house. We still have quite a nice coastal view actually, but not as good, I think. And yeah, I'd say that's ready to go. The other thing we can do here in the strength in the background is we can actually increase the strength of our Hdri and just get that to a point where we want it. And we can also this is the RGB curve, which will affect the color. So we can just left click on this little line here to put an extra control point in there. And now you can actually just pull this around to just adjust the colors slightly in your scene. You can take it to the extreme and put some different lights in there, or take it the other way now and just make it flatter. And you can see how this is actually affecting the color of the light applied in your scene. So that's actually quite nice. I've put a little bit of warmth into it, which I think I quite like. Maybe just tweak this around a little bit. And maybe just add an extra control point by left clicking. And now try twisting this around and just starting to apply some shadows and get some light in there. Maybe bring this back down again. And I think I'm going to leave that something like that for now and see how that goes. We can always adjust this later on and see what results we get. That's better actually, something like that. And to be honest, this is the way that a lot of this will go now. We will be sort of playing around with textures. The sort of the modeling bit is where you sort of can clinically draw and build and see that things are working right or wrong. But with lights and textures, it is very experimental. We do sort of sort of set things, and then if we're not happy, maybe revisit it and adjust lights. And as we apply textures, we might again think maybe we want to change our lights. So it is something that's very exploratory. We sort of have to sort of play around with this until we get the results we want. But for now, I think I'm pleased with that. So in the next lecture, we can actually start applying some textures. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 51, and don't panic. I haven't deleted the entire model. We'll come back to that in just a few minutes, but I wanted to do a quick lecture on you, just explaining UV mapping, because we're going to be doing a lot of UV mapping going forward now, and we're lucky enough that the model we've created, the shapes that we've got are all quite basic. You know, we've got rectangles and squares and different variations of that, but nothing particularly complex. So UV mapping won't be much of a challenge for us with this project, but it's still something that you kind of need to understand the basics of. So I'm going to do my best in this lecture to sort of cover that. Okay, so I'll just click it off, and you don't necessarily need to follow everything I do. It's up to you. You can if you want, but you don't need to. It's just enough to understand it. So what I'm going to do is just deselect these two items here and select those items there and just delete them. Then up here I'm going to go into shading and just drop us into shading with a simple cube. So here in the texture set, it's actually just put us a BSDF and a material output. And I might as well explain while I'm here what a BSDF is. So a BSDF is the most standard of all the nodes that we use, and it's basically your standard template, your starting point for creating any textures. And in here you can apply metallic to a surface, rough to a surface, reflection to a surface, alphas, etc. So this is your basic starting point for creating a material. There's different variations of a BSDF, but this is the one that Blender always starts you on. Anyway, that's enough of that. Over here, I'm going to actually just go from image editor, UV editor, and this is what I want. And what is UV editing? Well, UV mapping, is... So textures are basically 2D, but as you can see in front of us here, we have a 3D object. We have a three-dimensional object. So how do we apply a 2D texture to a 3D object? And think of it as wrapping a parcel. So we have to think, if we didn't want the paper that we're going to wrap this cube with to overlap, we'd have to measure and think carefully, where would we put the cutting points in that wrapping paper so that it wraps this perfectly without overlapping. And that's basically what UV mapping is. So if I select the object and just tap into edit mode for a minute, and you can see the object is all automatically, because it's such a basic cube, already UV mapped for us. Blender has already done this for us because it's such a simple object. It's done the most efficient way of unwrapping that object, and there you go, it's done it for us. So that is UV mapping in a basic way. So we'll actually tap out, and I'll just get rid of this object. I don't want it. And I'm going to bring in a cylinder. There we go, just a simple cylinder. And then I'll tap into edit mode, and again we're UV mapped. There we go. We can UV map if we've got a more complex object. If we're doing the windows or something, we need to UV map. So if I press all, and I press U, and I go for Smart UV Project, and here in the margin I'll just click on 1 just to make sure that the objects here, these islands we call them, are not touching each other. I don't want them to be touching. It can give problems, particularly if you export to other software. If your UV maps, if your islands within your UV maps are touching, it can create problems. So just make sure there's at least one, like a 0.10, or you can go 20 if you want, and go ahead and unwrap. And there you go, the map's not changed much because it was already unwrapped and it's such a simple object. But what if you wanted to make a starting point in this surface? I'll just press 2. So say if you've got a texture, let's say it's a wood texture, and you wanted to start at a certain point on this tubular surface. How could we do that? So you say that this point here is where you want the start of your texture to start and to end. So if I select that point again now and then right click and go ahead and mark seam. So now that's going to tell Blender that that will be the start of our surface. That is where it will start and that's where it'll end. So now what I'll do is I'll hold Control and just select that surface there. I'm sorry, I'll hold Alt and I'll select that surface there. And I'll hold Shift and Alt and I'll grab this one. I'll right click again and I'll mark a seam. There we go. Now I'm going to press A for all. And I'm going to press U and I'm going to go for, not this time, not Smart UV Project, but just Unwrap. Now Blender's had to consider where we've marked our seams to unwrap this object. So if I go ahead and select, maybe I'll press 3 now and I'll select this face here, you can see this face is right at the edge of the UV map. So now if I go ahead and hold Control and select maybe to there, you can see what Blender's done. So it's consecutively started our UV map from the seam just there, so that we can decide that we wanted to put the seam, let's say, at the least seen side of an object. Say this is a simple side table and this side here was against the wall, then that's where we'd want our seam to be, and so that we can conceal the seam behind another object. And that's the basics of UV mapping. I think that's all we need to know, and you'll learn how to UV map a little bit more as we go through. But like I say, most of the objects we're going to be applying UV maps to are very simple, so I don't think it'll ever be too much of a challenge to us. Okay, so in the next lecture, I think what we'll do is we'll start applying some glass materials to our windows. Okay, thanks very much. I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye for now. Hello and welcome now to lecture 52, and let's go ahead and create and apply our first material to our model. And this is gonna become fun because we're gonna start applying some realism to our model. It's good fun. So let's go over to texture preview. Let's click on this so we can see what we've got here. And something I didn't do actually in the last lecture, or in lecture 50, was within the render settings here, make sure the device is actually on GPU, not CPU, so that your graphics processor unit is handling the rendering, not your CPU. Okay, once we've done that, down here in the texture editor, make sure that we're in object rather than world. So the next thing you want to do in this one, just hit this little drop down here and make sure you're in UV editor and not image editor. Okay, once we've done that, we're away to go. So I said in the end of last lecture that we'll start applying glass materials to our windows, but I think it would be better first of all to apply materials to this one, to these glass panels here. And the reason being because these windows will have more than one material. They'll have a frame and a rubber seal and the glass, whereas these just have one material applied to them, which is the glass. So let's work on these first, simply because it's a better starting point. So with that done, let's go over to full rendered mode. And there we go. This will give us a pretty realistic version now. Let's select these items here and go over here to this one, to material properties. Click on this and go ahead and click on new. And then in this line here, go and click on this and let's rename this to glass. And there we go. Once we've done that, down here in the texture editor, it will have created the material for us, and automatically it's provided us with a principal BSDF and a material output. But I want to add to that. That's not enough. So what I want to do is we need to turn this into a glass. So what we're going to do is basically for materials we have two different types. We have what's known as a PBR, a photo-based rendering, a physically based rendering. So at the core of a PBR texture is a photograph. we're going to create a procedural texture, which means there is no photo. All we're going to do is manipulate this texture by adding extra nodes and setting them up correctly. So we'll do that for the glass. Over here now, press Shift A and search for a transparent BSDF. So I'll just start typing transparent, and then there we go, transparent BSDF, and go ahead and enter, bring that in like that. I'll bring this material output over here like that, and I want to plug in this transparent BSDF into this socket here, but also I still want to have this one plugged in too. So we need to be able to bring in something that can do that. So we'll press Shift A and we'll search for a mix shader, and there it is. Let's bring that in like that. Let's unplug this one and plug this into the bottom one of the shaders. Grab this one now and plug this into the top one, and go ahead and plug this one back into the surface. And there we go. We have a basic start for what we're going to do. But I want to go a little bit further with this glass material. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring in another node, and so I'll press Shift A and search for light path. And there it is. I'll bring that in next and just drop that there like that. I'm going to bring in another node now. I'm going to bring in a math node. So I'll press Shift A and search for math node. And there it is, right there. We'll leave it on add up here, and we'll start just spacing these out a little bit. There we go. Bring this in like this, and type the shadow ray into the value. So just plug that into that like that. And now on the mix shader, go ahead and plug this value into this one here like this. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is here in the value here, I'll bring this down to create a bit more transparency. I'll bring this down to maybe 1 like this. And now in the principal BSDF, I'm going to bring the roughness down to basically nothing, because glass is obviously smooth. And now you can start to see that we're getting a nice transparent material. The next thing I want to do is make sure that we've got some nice reflections in our glass. So here in the IOR, go ahead and bring that up to maybe around a 5, I say, or maybe even a 6. Let's try that. And we may well adjust this as we bring in more materials and we start to populate our scene. We may want to do more with this, but for now, that's absolutely fine. And bring the alpha as well to about halfway. And there we go, that's cool. But the next thing I want to do also is add a tiny bit of tint to this glass, so it's not perfectly transparent. So here, in the color of the transparent BSDF, just click on this and just bring this bar down a little bit to add a little bit of darkness to this scene. And there we go. So we've just created our very first material. We've created that with a procedural texture, using nodes and settings on nodes to create, in this case, quite a basic material. And we will be using this quite a few times to create materials like our rendered texture that you see on the outside. We'll create it for that. And the interior painted surfaces will be a procedural texture as well. Okay, so I think we're pretty much done with this lecture, but before we call it a day, I think it's a good time to do a new save. Since we finished the modeling section of the course, let's do a fresh save now for the textures. So let's come up to File and Save As. And what I want to do this time is I go over here to this little wheel here, click on this, make sure that we hit Compress, because we're going to start creating quite a big file now. As we start applying more and more materials, it's going to get big. So let's hit Compress to reduce our file size. Hit the plus sign to call this Render House 3 now, and click Save As. And there we go. So now we're on a fresh save. Okay, so in the next lecture, let's go ahead and apply our glass materials to our windows, and also let's create some new materials as well for our frame and our rubber seals. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 53, and in this one, let's apply textures to our windows here. Let's start with this one here. So I'll grab this window here and check the scale and the rotation, and it's fine. And I'll hit the / key to isolate it. Okay. So the next thing I think I'll do is I'll tap into edit mode with it. And let's have a look at our UV maps. So I'll press A for all. And I'll press U. And I'll go for Smart UV Project. Make sure that you have an island margin. And go ahead and unwrap. And there you go. Right here now we have all our UV surfaces already mapped out for us. Okay, now that we've done that, let's start looking at materials. So it's time to make a new material, I think. So I'm going to click on the new button here. And let's call this window frame. There we go. And I'll hit enter. So now we've created a new material, but of course it's nothing right now, it's just white, so we need to do something with that. So the next thing I'm going to do is, if you remember in the resources pack that we had in the first lecture, within that you've got textures. So what I'm going to do now is just select the Principled BSDF and make sure your node wrangler is here in the side tab. If this side tab isn't open, just press N. And with the Principled BSDF selected, add Principle Setup. It's going to bring you to this browser window, so now you can find your texture sets. So come back to textures, wherever you put them, click on it. And in the other file here, you'll find doors and windows. And there we go. The white one here is the alpha set. I don't think we're going to use the alpha set, so ignore that one. And then hold down Shift and select the others. Once you've got those selected, hit Principle Texture Setup. The Blender Kit is automatically set up a node tree for us with this, so that's really cool. That's the benefit of Node Wrangler. It's actually saved us quite a bit of time doing that for us. So here on this side you have your mapping. So with this, if you want to, you can scale or you can adjust the position of your texture set. Here, of course, you have like your base colors and your roughness and your displacement and your normals, and you have your Principled BSDF and these other nodes as well, which control your displacement and your normals, which we'll go into at some point. Okay, let's actually just maybe now tap out of edit mode for a moment, and let's zoom in on this and see how it looks. And it has a texture on it because that's what the texture set has on this one. It has some dimpling to the paint, that was intended. But the dimpling, the texture is too big, so we need to do something with that. So I'll tap into edit mode again. I'll press A for all, and there's our UV map. Just put a selection window around everything now, hit S, and scale it up considerably. Let's try something like that. So let's just zoom in on this now and see what our texture looks like. And I'm just going to pull in a little bit more. And yeah, that's kind of what I wanted. This sort of orange peely paint effect. I might actually go a little bit more than that. So I'll press A again for all. And make a selection window around everything. And scale this up even more to about there. And there we go. Now we have a nice little dimpling to the paint. Nothing too much, but a little bit. So let's refine this material a little bit more. We can click off this. In fact, we can tap out of edit mode with this now so we can see this a bit cleaner. And let's come on over to the Principled BSDF. And let's add a little bit of metallic to this material. Just to give it a little bit more going on. Maybe about half on the metallic. And there we go. And let's also put a little bit more reflection, so actually tweak the IOR to maybe to about 2.5. And there we go, now we've got a little bit more going on that material, it's a little more interesting. So that's cool, that's our window frame material. But the problem is, as you can see, it's also covering our glass, so that doesn't help us much. So with the window selected, let's tap into edit mode. Make sure you got surface selection, so I'll press 3, and I'll go ahead and grab our window panels, this one, this one, this one. I'll turn it around, and I'll do the same from this side. Now I'll hit the plus sign here, and I'm going to hit the drop down here, because I've already created the glass, and now it's already stored. find our glass, there it is. And with these selected like this, I'm going to go ahead and assign. And there we go. Now we have our glass in our glass panels. It's starting to look pretty good. So now I need to create the material for this rubber seal that we were going to do just here. So let's hit the plus sign again now. And let's hit new. And let's click on this. And let's call this with the rubber seal. There we go. And hit enter. So with that done, let's actually select a face here on this rubber seal. And let's select one face of each of the sets of rubber seal. So that's that one. And this one. And we do these two here. And then this one as well. Now we turn the window around and we'll do the other side. So I'll select maybe this one here. As long as it's one face from each of the sets of the rubber seals. Now, since the rubber seals are a separate component within the same grouping, we can actually use the Control plus key to expand the selection on the rubber seals till we get all of it. Once we've done that, we can click on the rubber seal here again, and with these still selected, we can hit the assign. And there we go. We can tap out of edit mode with this now. And you can see that the rubber seals are currently white, which I expected them to be because we haven't really done anything with the material on this. And this is quite a simple setup for this one. Okay, so let's select the rubber seal here now. And let's grab our color here on our Principled BSDF and bring the color down here and into the black. We won't go completely black, we'll go to about there because generally there's nothing really that you'll see that has complete blackness in it. So we'll put that about there. And now in the roughness we'll bring this up because rubber doesn't really reflect. Bring a tiny bit of metallic into it. And there we go. That's our rubber material assigned. So there we go, there's our first window done. So we'll hit the / key now and bring that back and see how we're looking. And I think we're looking good, I think that's great. So now we can do the same now with our second window. So let's grab this window here and isolate it. And let's check it for scale, and it's out. So I'll press Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale. Now I'll tap into edit mode and I'll press A for all, and I'll press U, and I'll go for a smart UV project. And I'll click unwrap, making sure that we have a gap in the island margins. And let's see if we can find that here. And there we go, it's all laid out. So now we don't need to create new materials, we just need to assign. So we'll hit the plus key, and we'll hit the drop down here, and we're looking for the frame. So we can call this, is it window framed? Is that what we called it? Window frame, there it is, so select that, and there we go. So that's that already applied to that now. So now we can hit the plus key again, and we can hit the drop down here, and we can look for glass. And with the glass selected here, we can select these faces. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Spin this around, grab these. Make sure the glass is selected here again, and hit the assign, and there we go. So let's actually hit the plus key again now to get our rubber material. Hit this little drop down, and we're looking for the rubber. So let's grab this here. Was it simply rubber? Rubber seal, there we go. So we'll click on that, and now that's also within this window set. Let's grab our rubber seal actual component. So this is one here. Hold shift, grab this one, that one there, and this one. And this one, this one, and this one, and we'll spin this window around now. And let's select on the other side as well. and last one. And with the surface selected from each of those rubber seals, hold down Control and press plus to expand our selection until they're all selected. Reselect rubber seal up here and go ahead and assign. And there we go. Let's tap out of edit mode and let's look at what we've done. There we go. So that's our material selected. Now you can see that obviously this is too bumpy for the window frame material. So let's tap back into edit mode with this. Select a face on the window frame and hit the plus key to expand our selection. Let's deselect these windows. We don't want those. There we go. And with those done like that, let's grab these over here now and let's scale those up. Let's go again with that. Grab all of these and let's hit the S and scale those up. And there we go. Let's see what we've got. And that's more like the material that we want. So I'll tap out of edit mode now. And there we go. That's looking good. Okay, so that's our windows done. So in the next lecture, I'll just hit the / key and bring those back so we can see what we've done. And that's looking good. In the next lecture, let's go ahead and repeat that principle now on these big bifolding doors here. Okay, thanks very much. And I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye for now. Okay, hello and welcome now to lecture 54, and let's apply our materials in this lecture to our bifolding doors. I think it'd be good to do those next. So let's select this door on this side, and I don't know if you remember or not, but we actually created the duplicate of this door by using the Alt-D command. So when I apply the materials to this door, it'll automatically be applied to this one, so that should save us some time. So with that door selected, let's hit the isolate button. Let's hit the / key. So we've just got these doors like this. And I think the next thing we want to do is up here, hit the plus key and hit the little drop down here. And let's type in window frame. There it is. And let's select that. And that's instantly got the material on that window. And it's looking a bit funky. You can see we've got all these weird sort of lines going through like this, and this is because we didn't apply the UV maps. So let's do that now. So I'll tap into edit mode and I'll press A for all, I'll press U and I'll go Smart UV Project. Make sure you have an island margin and click Unwrap, and there we go. So it's all a bit big, so I'll just grab this now and I'll press S and I'll go ahead and scale that up like this. Let's see what we're looking like. It's still a bit textury, so I'll hit S and I'll scale up a bit more until we find it the happy medium. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I can still see a light texture in there, and that's what I'm after. Okay, so now that that's done, let's tap into edit mode with it. And now let's select the window faces, or the glass. And I don't think I can get all of them like this, so I'm going to have to press Z and go into wireframe. And now I can select all of the glass panels. Make sure it's just the glass I've got selected. There we go. And with that selected now, I'm going to hit the plus key here. And I'm going to hit the drop down. I'm going to find the glass. And with the glass selected, I'm going to go ahead and assign. So let's tap out of it. Let's go back into solid mode now. And go back into rendered view, and let's see if that's worked for us. Let's tap out of edit mode, and yeah, that's fine. I can see through that. I don't think there's any grey left in there anywhere. No, I can see through there, that's it. It's just the compound of all those pieces of glass together, but it's definitely transparent. Okay, with that done, the next one to do is these black rubber seals. So let's tap back into edit mode with this, and let's go back into wireframe for a moment. And let's just select these rubber seals. This might be a bit more tricky, but it's not too bad down here. So if I select this one, I'll hold shift and grab this one, and Let's grab this one and this one, this one and this one, and this one and this one, and this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'll hit Control plus and expand on that selection, and there we go. And I'll hit the plus key here, and I'll hit the drop down, and I'll find rubber. And there we go, rubber seal. I'll click on that. And with the rubber seal selected and these still selected, I'll hit the assign. Okay, let's tap out of, or let's go back to solid mode now. And let's actually go back into rendered view and see what we've got. Let's tap out of edit mode, and there we go. That's looking good. So I'll hit the / key to bring everything back now, and make sure that's been applied to the other side, as it has, and that's good. So now let's just grab maybe this frame here, hold shift and grab this one, and let's isolate those two items. Let's have a look at the scales on these. That one's fine. And what's this one like here? That one's fine as well. So maybe I'll just tap into edit mode with this one first, and I'll press A for all, and U, and let's smart UV project. Make sure you got a gap, and click unwrap, and there we go. With that done, right here this time in the sort of materials editor tab, I'll just hit the drop down here, and I'm going to find window frame. There it is, and go ahead and assign. Let's just see what that material looks like. I'm going to hit the Shift B and just select an area to speed up Blender, and let's have a look at our texture. And it's a little too rough, so I'll press A for all, grab our UV maps, hit the S to scale it, and let's just see what that does. And I'm happy with it, maybe about there like that. That's cool. Yep, that's what I'm looking for. So I'll tap out of edit mode with that, and that looks good to me. Let's do the same with this one here now. Let's have a look at the scale, and it's good. So let's tap into edit mode, and let's press A for all, and U, and smart UV project. Make sure there's an island margin, and click unwrap. Let's hit the little drop down here, and let's find window frame. There it is, and go ahead and assign. Let's look at the actual texture on this, and of course it's too big, so we'll grab our UV maps, hit S, and scale this up to about the same size. And yeah, that's looking good to me. I'm happy with that. Maybe I'll go a little bit more actually. I'll press A, and grab all of it, and hit S, and scale it up a little bit more. And there we go. I'm happy with that now. Okay, so that's our bifolding doors done. It really is not too difficult at all. Let's hit the / key, bring it all back, and see how that all looks. And yeah, that's cool. We're quickly adding some nice materials to this. Okay, so in the next lecture, let's actually do our pocket doors at the bottom here, which is going to be pretty much the same as our bifolding doors up here. And then we'll move on to our next one. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye for now. Okay, hello, and welcome now to lecture 55. And in this lecture, let's go ahead and apply the same window frame material to our pocket doors here on the ground floor. And then let's apply a new material then to these sort of rail posts just here. Okay, so let's start with our pocket doors. Let's grab these, and let's go ahead and isolate them. So I'll hit the / key on the numpad. And let's have a look at the scale, and it's all good. And remember, we actually use the Alt-D to duplicate these, so if we apply the materials once, we'll be fine. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and tap into edit mode with all of them, and I'll press A to select all, and I'll press U, and I'll go ahead and do a smart UV project. Make sure we have an island margin, and go ahead and unwrap. Now that we've done that, let's go down here, hit this little drop down, and let's find window frame, there it is, and select that. and there we go, that's done. Let's have a look at the texture we've got on this. And I can see that it's a little bumpy. I can just about see through the selection. So I'll grab our UV maps, hit S, and just go ahead and do a scale on this. I'll deselect for a minute so I can see what we've got. Maybe zoom in a little, and I can see the texture, and it's still a little bit much, so I'll press All, grab it again, and I'll hit S and scale up some more. And there we go, that's absolutely fine, that's what I want. Okay, so it's really easy to apply our textures to our pocket doors, and that's that. Let's hit the / key now and bring that back. And now let's have a look at our newel posts, or our handrail posts, or whatever you want to call them. So I'll grab them like this, and let's isolate them, so that we've just got them like this. And let's look at the scale, and that's fine. So let's tap into edit mode with those, and we've got quite a bit of UV mapping to do here, but it's still easy. So we'll press A, and we'll press U, and we'll do Smart UV Project. Make sure you've got the island margin, and click Unwrap. And there we go. Let's zoom in a little bit and see our UV maps. As you can see, there's quite a few surfaces there, but everything's looking good. Everything's looking really nice and uniform. Okay, so over here now, let's hit the plus sign and let's click on New, because we're going to create an all new material now. And let's name this as handrail posts. That will be good. And there we go, hit enter, and there we go. So it's created our material here, our base material. So let's use the node wrangler to bring in. So let's click on the principal BSDF, add principal setup, and let's go find our textures. There we go, and others, and posts, and there we go. Let's press A to select all, and go ahead and hit principal texture setup. And there we go, that's our material. Let's zoom in a little bit and see what it looks like. Let's actually tap out of edit mode and see what we're looking like. And let's see what we can do with this. So let's add some metallic to this. And let's add some reflection to this as well, so we get something going on. And there we go. But what I see is, so that's looking fine as a material. I don't think we need to do any more to that than we've already done. We can increase the metallic if we want to, or bring that down. I'll leave that somewhere around like that. But it's very flat. We have very little features going on here. And materials are generally not like this, that it'll be one uniform color. So what I'm going to show you now is how to apply a bevel to this, a bevel node. And this can make the difference really between a really nice render and a normal render. If we can put shadings on objects, so it's not just a flat color, but we have some variation. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing I need to do is I need to make a duplicate of this whole thing. So I'm going to grab it like this, I'm going to press Shift D and bring a copy down like this. And just put it slightly below like this. I'm going to just bring this up a little bit to give this some more space so we can see what we're doing. The next thing I need to do is actually blend these two together. So I'll grab this and I'll grab this and I'll pull it over. And actually this bottom one here, the output, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. We don't need that. So now we need to actually join these two together. So if we go ahead and press Shift A and type in Mix Shader, and it should be just there somewhere. There we go. And we'll bring this in like this. Maybe I'll just bring this up to here and let that join itself like that. So now I'll grab this bottom one here like this, and I'll go ahead and bring this up and plug this into this one like this. I can go ahead and disconnect the base color off this one. We don't need that anymore. And if we want, we can go ahead and delete that. And there we go. So now I need to bring in some new nodes. So the first one I'm going to bring in is called the bevel node. So I'll press Shift A and search for, it's right there for me, it's bevel, but I'll type it just for you. There we go, and there's the bevel node. I'll bring this in and I'll just put it a nice distance from the others. Let's space this out a little bit more like this so we can do this nicely. And now I'll bring in the next node, so I'll press Shift A and search for a geo node. Geometry node, there we go. And I'll bring that in just like that. Now I'll bring in another node, and this is going to be a vector math node, so I'll press Shift A and search for vector math, and I'll bring that in as well like this. And I'll bring in one last node, so I'll press Shift A and I'll search for a color ramp, and there we go, it's right there. And I'll bring this in like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and plug the normals here into the lowest vector on this vector math. And here on add, I'm going to make us a dot product, and I'm going to click the normals here into the vector like this. Then the next thing we do is plug the dot value into the factor of the color ramp like this. And then I'm actually going to, just so we can see what's going on with this, I'm now going to plug the color directly into the material output, and we'll see what we get with that. And can you see now that we're getting some darkening on the edges, and that's exactly what I want. So if I just grab this little thing here on the color ramp and bring this over, I can actually increase the level of that darkening and shading on the edges. And there we go, that's a nice effect now. We've got some darkening in all the corners, and that's what I want to see. So with that done, I'll disconnect this again now, and I'll plug this into the factor of the mix shader. And now I'll go ahead and plug this back into our material output. I need to switch these over now, so I'll just grab this one here and plug this into the top one, and plug this one now into the bottom one like this. And now we're starting to get a nice effect. But we haven't got any color to that bevel yet, so I'm going to come down here and just click on this one and go ahead and bring this down now into the black, so that we get some darkening on those edges like that. And there we go. So that's a nice effect now. You can see the darkening at the base of all these edges. That's looking really quite cool. So we could, if we want, maybe just bring down the metallic again on this one here, and bring down the IOR maybe. And there we go. That's a cool effect. I like now that that's darkening on those edges, giving that another sort of level of realism. So I'm going to bring everything back now. And there's our posts in position. Okay, so in the next lecture, maybe what we should do next is have a look at doing some of the external stuff here. Maybe the pool and the paving and the wall around the outside. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 56. And in this lecture, let's go for some impact. So let's do some big stuff so that we can quickly see some nice progression. So I'm thinking we're going to do maybe the paving here, and then the pool and the wall. And if we've got any time left, maybe this edging here. Maybe that's a bit much for one lecture. Maybe I'm being a little bit too optimistic. We'll just see how we go. I need to rein myself a bit of that. We'll take it as one step at a time and just see how far we get. So let's make a start in this optimistic lecture. Let's grab the paving here and let's check the scale. And there's a minus there on the scale, so I'll press Control A and apply rotation and scale. And there we go. And now let's tap into edit mode with it. Press A for all, and let's go for U, and let's go for a Smart UV project. Make sure you've got an island margin, and click Unwrap. And there we go. So in the materials file, we do actually have a paving slab. So the next thing we want to do is actually apply that. So with this selected, come on over here now to the materials output and hit the plus sign. and click on new because it's a completely new material, and let's call this paving slabs. There we go. And down here now, of course, we have the paving slabs. Let's just bring this up a little bit so that we have a bit more space in our texture editor. Let's select the principal BSDF, go over to our node wrangler and add principal setup. Go to the place where the textures file is and click on it. And I think it was in outside, so click on outside and paving slabs. Click on this and we'll press A to select all and principal texture setup. There we go. Let's have a look at that. And the scale is just way too big, so that's the first thing to deal with. Let's tap into edit mode with it and make sure that all is selected. Grab it here in our UV maps and hit S and go ahead and scale this up. And let's have a look at what that looks like. Maybe I'll just deselect everything for a moment and see what it looks like. And I'd say that's still too big, so I'll do that a bit more. So I'll press A for all again. And I'll zoom out a little bit on the UV map, select everything, and just go ahead and scale up some more. I'll deselect everything and see what the scale's like. I think I'm pleased with that. Yep, I think I am. Okay, I'm going to tap out of edit mode on that. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fine. That's working for me. Okay, so that's that. That was easy. So where next? Shall we do the pool? Yeah, let's do the pool. So let's select the pool and let's look at first of all the scale, and it's ever so slightly out. So I'll press Control A and apply rotation and scale. Let's tap into edit mode with this and we'll press A for all and let's press U and let's go for Smart UV Project. Make sure you get an island margin and click Unwrap, and there we go. Okay, so let's tap out of edit mode for a moment now, and with the pool still selected, let's hit the plus sign because we're going to assign a new material. Hit new, click on this because it's an all new material again, and let's call this the pool tiles. And there we go. Once we've done that, select the BSDF here in the texture set and add principal setup in the node wrangler. Let's go back and find our pool tiles, and there they are. And should we go pool tile wet? Let's go pool tile wet. Let's select all of them and let's go ahead and add the principal texture setup. And there we go. Obviously that's a little big, but we can deal with that now. Let's tap into edit mode with this. And with all selected, let's grab it here, hit S, and go ahead and scale this up until it looks about right for the little tiles that you see in swimming pools. I'll go a little bit more, and that looks about right to me. Okay, I'll click somewhere else just to deselect and now have a look at what we got. And that's looking pretty good. I wonder though if I just hit tap out of edit mode with it and see what it looks like, and it's just not looking right though. What I'm going to do is try disconnecting the displacement. Sometimes the displacement doesn't always work, so I'll disconnect that and see what we get. And now we're getting the effect that I'm looking for. We're getting that sort of shiny surface that you'd expect on the tiles. Yep, that's absolutely perfect. That's what I'm after. And it's that easy. There we go. Okay, so what next? Maybe we do the edging tiles around the pool. Let's see if we do those next. So let's select those. And let's look at the scale. And the scale's in the negative, so let's press Control A and apply rotation and scale. Okay, so now let's tap into edit mode with it. Press A for all, and press U, and Smart UV Project, and Unwrap. And there we go. We'll zoom in a little bit, and there are the items there on the UV map. Okay, so let's tap out of edit mode with that, and let's hit the plus sign here in the material slot, and let's click on new, And let's call this the pool edge tiles. There we go. And click enter. And there we go. So we have a new material created here now. So let's select the principal BSDF. In the node wrangler here, add principal setup. We'll go back some and we'll find those pool tiles. And did I put it in other? Maybe I put it in others. Let's have a look in there. Nope. In stone and tiles, pool edge tiles. There we go. So let's click on this. And this is the alpha. And I don't think I want the alpha. So I'll select everything else but the alpha. So just hold down shift to make the selection and add principal texture setup. And there we go. Let's have a look at that and see what it looks like. And it's looking a bit funky actually. First of all, let's sort the scale out on this and see if that helps. No. Let's try unplugging the displacement first and see what that does. And instantly that's starting to look better. And now of course let's try scaling that down. So let's tap out of edit mode with this. And let's grab everything here and hit S and scale this up. And let's see what we've got. And yeah, that's looking good. I think I'm pleased with that as a tile. But again, it's a bit too, the color's too flat on that. We need to see some shading here on the edges. Things just don't look like that, do they? So actually, I think I'm going to scale it up a little bit more to begin with. So I'll tap back in edit mode. And I'll press A for all. And I'll go ahead and scale those up a little bit more again. Maybe something like that. Let's have a look. And yeah, that's better. So we're going to add the bevel node that we added previously. So let's go ahead and do that. So it looks like, first of all, we don't want the displacement. We're not using that, so we'll delete that. And we'll delete the displacement here as well. We're just not using them. With that done, let's select everything. And let's press Shift D and bring a copy down like this. And just drop it right underneath like this. Okay, let's grab the BSDF and the material output here, and let's press G, and now just drag those up closer to the other one like this. Now this material output on the lower one, we don't need that at all, so I'll delete this. And let's go ahead and grab this now and bring this over, and grab this BSDF and put that maybe there like that. Okay, so the next one to bring in is a mixed shader. So let's press Shift A and search for a mix shader. Is it there? It is, it's there because we've used it a few times already. And go ahead and bring that in like this. So I'm going to put the top BSDF, I'm going to plug that into the bottom of the shaders for the mix shader. I'm going to grab this one here and go ahead and put that into the top one like this. There we go. Okay, so the next one we need is the bevel node. So I'll press Shift A and search for, and we should have it here. We do, the bevel node, and I'll bring this in like this. And let's go again straight away. Shift A, search for a geometry, and bring that in as well. And now a vector math. Shift A, search for a vector math, and we'll bring this in. And the next one, Shift A, search for a color ramp, and there we go. Let's bring this in as well like this. Alright, so let's plug the bevel normals here into the bottom vector, and let's plug the normals on this geometry node into the top vector. And now let's plug this one into this one here. Once we've done that, just to see what we've got, disconnect the shades from the material output, and let's just bring in this one. Let's just plug in this color here into this and see what we get. So here on the math, on the vector math node, turn this from add to dot product, and there we go. And now let's plug the value back in again. and see what we got. Let's go ahead and up this. And take this up so we start to get some shading. And we can see it now. We can just see it there forming on the edges. I'm going to tap out of edit mode. And oh, now it's a lot more apparent. Now we can see that edge detail coming in nicely. So I'll actually just add this a little bit more. And there we go. That's cool. That's what I want to see. So we could actually here in the samples, in the radius on the bevel, just try clicking on this once just to increase that number. And yeah, I'd say that's working for us. And I might actually just bring this back down on the color ramp a little bit and see what the results are. And that's exactly what I'm after. Okay, so with that done, what we'll do is we'll plug this one from the color ramp now into the factor on the mix shader. And we'll go ahead and plug the shader back into the surface on the material output and see what we got. So you can see that these edges are a lot whiter, so let's go ahead and apply color to this now. So let's come on down to this second one here and let's disconnect the base color and let's go ahead and delete this, and there we go. And now let's go ahead and add a color to this. So we'll just bring this down into the black to put some griminess into this. And there we go. Now we've got a little bit going on with these, more than just one standard color. That's what I wanted to see. We could try actually just bringing that value back down on the bevel and see if that helps things or makes things worse. Put it back up again. Let's try increasing the samples. And I'll take the samples back down again. Increase the bevel. And that's too much. And yeah, 250 looks about right to me. We're putting some variation in that now, and I'm liking that. Okay, so is there anything else that I want to do to this? I don't think I'm completely happy with the color that we've got going on here, so maybe I want to do something with that. So what I'll do now with this actual color here is I'm going to bring in a mixed color. So I'm going to press Shift A and search for a mixed color. And I'll bring this in like this. And the actual base color here, now I'll go and plug this in now into B like this. And go ahead and plug this back in. And now for this one here, I'm just going to tap in with this one now. And I'm just going to bring this maybe down a little bit. Just to try, because they were a little too orangey for my liking. So I'll just bring those down and we'll play around with a factor now. So there we're going back to the original orange, and now we're coming back down to a paler colour, which I think is kind of what I like. There we go, that's cool. That's looking good. So it's a little, this bevel detail is a little bit dark for me now. So I'm going to go find that again and maybe just bring this down here in the colour ramp. Just to reduce that effect a little bit. And there we go. That's looking good now. That's looking great. Okay, so that's that one done. Okay, so I think we'll leave this lecture just here. I think I was being a bit over optimistic thinking we'd do the cladding on the walls as well. I think that's a bit too far. So in the next lecture we'll go ahead and apply the cladding to the walls and then maybe put a bevel on that as well, just so we have some highlightings to the edges of these walls. And then we'll also go ahead and apply that same material to the ground floor exterior wall surfaces as well. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now. Okay, hello and welcome to lecture 57. And in this lecture, let's go ahead and create our material for our boundary walls, our wall cladding material. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's select the item and make sure the scale's correct, and it is. So let's tap into edit mode with it. And let's press A for all. And let's press U and Smart UV Project. Make sure that you have an island margin and click Unwrap. And there we go. Okay, now we've done that. Let's go ahead here. Let's click on New Material. And let's call this Wall Cladding. and click enter, and there we go. Let's click on the Principal BSDF and come over to the Node Wrangler and add Principal Setup. And let's hit the drop down and let's find the texture and let's click on Others. Nope, it's not in Others, so it must be an outside. Let's click on that. And Stone Cladding, there it is. Let's press A for all and let's Principal Texture Setup. And there we go. Okay, it's way too big, so let's press A for all. And let's find it, and there it is, so we'll grab it and we'll hit S and we'll go ahead and scale this up like this. And let's zoom in and see what the scale's like now. Maybe let's scale up a little bit more, hit S and scale it up to something like that. Looks good. But as you can tell, the brickwork or the cladding is in the wrong orientation. It's vertical and we don't want that, so we can rotate the UV map. So let's grab it again and let's press R and 90 and click enter, and there we go. Let's have a look at that now and see what we got, and that's looking good. I think I like the scale that we've got there, but the tiles or the bricks, or call them what you will, on this face here don't look right. So come select this face here now, and in the UV map I'm going to find it, and here it is. And I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees. So I'll press R, 90, enter. And there we go. So now that actually works out nicely. That's the same orientation as the sides. Okay, let's do the same on the opposite side now. So I'll select this face here. And I'll go ahead and grab it. And I'll press R, 90, and type enter. And there we go. So this one here now, I'm just going to hit the T to get the tab in the UV editor, UV mapper, sorry, and I'll just bring this down slightly to try and line that up with the one above. Zoom in a little, try that now. And there we go, that's good, just like that. That's lined up nicely with that. That's perfect. Okay, with that done now, what we could do is tap out of edit mode so we can see our handiwork and see what we've got. Okay, I'm just going to press Shift B and I'm just going to reset Blender because it was running a little slow. And let's have a look at this wall. And I wonder if I take the displacement off. Let's see what that looks like. And yeah, I think that's better with the displacement left off. I think I'm preferring that results. But I think again this time I'm going to apply the bevel node to these top edges just so we get a little more going on, a little something more. So let's do that. So let's grab everything we've got here now. And let's press Shift D and just bring this down until it's beneath the other one like this. Grab it and take it back up again and just plant it just like this. So we can actually delete the base color, we're not going to use that. And we can delete the displacement as well and delete this one, and we can go ahead and delete the material output as well. So let's grab the lower Principal BSDF and bring this up. Maybe drop that about there like that. Let's take this material output over so we can work this out and then drop these two BSDFs sort of in line with each other just for neatness really. Okay, so now let's set up that Blender node. So let's press Shift A and let's search for, and a lot of them will be here by now, so here it is, the bevel node. Let's bring this in like this. And let's do the same again, Shift A, search for, this time it's the geometry node, bring this in. And now Shift A again, and search for the vector math node. There it is, and we'll bring this in, and one more, Shift A, search for color ramp. And there it is, we'll bring this in as well. We'll move this over a little bit more like this. And the next node we need to bring in is a mix shader so we can blend these two BSDFs. So let's press Shift A and search for the mix shader. And we'll bring this in as well. Let's go ahead and plug the output from this top BSDF into the lower plug of the mix shader, and this one into the top plug, and then put the mix shader back into the surface of the material output. And there we go. Okay, on the vector math, let's turn it from add to dot product, and let's plug the normals of the geometry node into the vector of the top one. Let's plug the normal of the bevel into the lower one, and now let's plug the value into the value on the color ramp. Okay, so just to see what we've got, let's plug the color now into the material output color. There we go, and see what we've got going on. And now in the color ramp, let's go ahead and increase our blackness. And there we go, we're getting what we want. There we go, we're getting some nice blackening to that edge now. We could try increasing the radius. There we go, that's cool. And we could try increasing the samples. So we get something, I'd say that's too dark, so I'll bring that down. Maybe a 3, we'll try increasing this again. No, I'll keep that a bit lower, this radius. I'm going way too far with it now. And there we go. Let's leave that about there. So 0.250, and samples we'll put at maybe a 4. I'll leave it about a 4. There we go. That's looking really good. Okay, so let's unplug the color ramp and put that into the factor on the mix shader. And now let's plug the shader back into the material output. And there we go. So we can see the whiteness on that edge now. That's because we don't have a color for this bevel node yet. So let's go ahead and do that next. So let's grab the color and let's bring that down now into the black. And yeah, I'm liking that result. I'm liking now that we've got a little bit of coloring, a little bit of darkening on the edge of that wall. That's absolutely perfect. That's the results that I want. I could play around with maybe a little bit of this. Maybe just play around with the color ramp. Bring this back to the middle a bit more. Just to soften the effect a little bit. And there we go. That's absolutely perfect. I'm liking that. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply our wall cladding now to our lower walls. So let's grab this wall like this and check the scale, and the scale's correct. So let's tap into edit mode, press A for all, and press U, and do a smart UV project. Make sure we've got an island margin, and go ahead and unwrap, and there we go. Okay, so now we need to create material. So I hit the plus sign here. And let's just hit this little drop down because we've already made our wall cladding material. Let's grab it here now. So I'll type wall cladding, and there it is. I'll click on this, and there we go. Okay, so obviously this is all wrong. So let's press A for all. Let's find our UV map, and here it is. Let's go ahead and scale this up to reduce the size of our cladding. And let's have a look at that. That's a lot better, but also it's orientated incorrectly. We need to rotate this. So let's press A again, and let's rotate that. So I'll press R, 90, enter, and there we go. Let's tap out of edit mode with this and see what it looks like. Now we will create a separate material for the inside surface. We're not going to leave it like that. But also, I don't think I like the bevel on this. I think I want this to look a bit cleaner. So I can't just remove the bevel because this material's already been created. If I remove this bevel from here, if I go ahead and adjust this, then what it's actually going to do is take the bevel off this wall, which I don't want to do. So what I need to do is create a duplicate of this material. So I'll go ahead here and hit the plus sign. And now this is wall cladding 01. And with that done, that means I can adjust this material without losing the bevel on this edge here. So with that done now, I'll just go ahead and unconnect the color ramp, and I can actually just disconnect the mix shader now. I can actually just go ahead and plug this directly into here like this, and I can delete this mix shader, and I can delete this principal BSDF, and I can go ahead and delete everything below here like this. So we just have a much simpler material for this part. Oh, there we go. I think that's a bit nicer for the main walls. Okay, so with that done now, what we can do is we can apply that same material to this side. So this was wall cladding 01, so let's select this one now, and let's check the scale's correct, and it is. So let's tap into edit mode, and press A, let's press U, and let's go for a smart UV project. Make sure we get an island margin, and click unwrap. There we go. Let's go ahead and hit the plus sign, and let's hit the drop down, and let's find the wall cladding. Wall cladding 01, and there we go. So let's grab our UV maps, and let's rotate that 90 degrees. So R, 90, enter, and let's hit S and scale this up to get the size something similar to the opposite side. And is that about the same, or is that smaller? I'd say that's about the same. I'll tap out of edit mode with that and see what we've got. And yeah, that's looking cool. Let's zoom in on this and see how it looks. And I'll press Shift B and just grab an area so we can zoom in. And yeah, that's looking good. We've got some nice displacement in that, and the texture's looking really nice. Okay, so I think there's one more thing I want to do. So since the previous lecture, I've actually been looking through the HDRI Haven website, which is also called Polyhaven sometimes, to see if I could find a different HDRI. I'm not finding this very dramatic. I want to try and do something else. So I found one called Cape Hill. So just type Cape Hill into Polyhaven and it comes up nicely. And then you can download it if you want to do this, but it's completely up to you. So I'll go to World, and I'll just pull in a little bit of this, and I'll hit the file sign, and I'll go to my HDRIs. Wherever you've put them, you can do the same, and I'll grab the Cape Hill file and open image. And as you can see, it's just a bit more dramatic. We've got some nicer colors and some nicer shading in there. We've got the sun just coming on it from this angle, and if we want to, we can adjust things. We could actually turn up or turn down the power. And yeah, I'm liking that. Now we're just applying a bit more color to the scene. We've got slightly stronger shadows, and it's just a little bit more dramatic. Okay, so that's cool. So in the next lecture, let's start applying our sort of interior paint surface to the downstairs walls. Okay, thanks very much. I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture... What lecture is this? I lose track of the lectures. Sorry about that. We're on lecture 58. I'll get there in the end. So in this lecture, I want to create a material for our internal walls. So I'm going to go for quite a light material. So probably something more like a magnolia. I know that's I know that's a boring color, and it's just, but I am playing it kind of safe. I want to create something that appeals to as many people as possible. So I'm trying to use very neutral colors. So yeah, I'm going to use that. So that's me defending my choice of magnolia right there. But I encourage you to choose your own colors and just do whatever you want with this, really, and go your own way with it, definitely. So if I show you how to create the material, you can kind of choose your own colors as we go. Okay, so let's select these two walls, and let's hit the / key on the numpad, and there we go. So I think I'll start with this one because the light is shining into this one from that direction, so it's going to give me a better idea of the color we're going to achieve. So I'll grab this wall and I'll just press Shift B and just recenter Blender around this wall. There we go. And I'll tap into edit mode with this wall, and this one is probably the first wall that I'll select. Then I'll hold Control and select maybe to there like that, and I'll hold Shift and select this one, hold Control and select this one, hold Shift, select this one, and hold Control and grab to there. And I think that's all the faces that I want to have this Magnolia paint on. Once I've got all those selected, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit the plus sign, and I'm going to click on New, and I'm going to call this material Internal Walls. And hit enter. And with those still selected, I'm going to go ahead and assign. And there we go. So we can tap out of edit mode now. We don't need to be in edit mode. We have the walls selected that we needed. And here's our new material, internal walls, with a BSDF and a material output. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just select the BSDF on its own, come over to the node wrangler, and I'm going to hit something new. I'm going to hit add texture setup. So I'll go ahead and do that. And what that's done for us, it's just brought us in a basic texture map. Now we have a texture coordinates node, a mapping node, an image texture node, and then the two we had before, the BSDF and the material output. So that's all we need to create a basic material. So that's what Node Wrangler has done for us. It's gone pink because there's no material or image assigned to this yet. So this is Blender telling us that there's nothing assigned to this yet. So we're going to create a procedural texture. We're going to basically manipulate and add nodes to create a texture with no photo base. It's not a PBR, a physically based rendering, or a photo based rendering. This is a procedural texture. So let's get rid of the image texture because we don't need that. And here, let's go ahead and let's plug object into vector. There we go. And let's grab our BSDF and our material output and take that over to give us some extra space. And let's start bringing in new nodes. So I'll start with a noise texture node. So I'll press Shift A and search for a noise texture node. There we go. And I'll bring this in. And I'll plug this into the vector like this. And I'm going to plug this straight away now into the output node in the surface to see what we've got. And you can kind of see the principle of the noise texture. It just creates noise on the surface. It gives us some nice base textures to be able to work with. But obviously that's far too big. So let's go over to the mapping node and just bump this up to, let's try the 100 and see what we think. Roughly, we don't need to be exact. And let's see what that looks like. I'll zoom in on that so I can see. And I'll press Shift B and just grab a bit so I can see. And then, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe I'll go to 150 with this. There we go. I think that's slightly better. I think that's looking good. So now we have some texture on that, and we have some speckling, so we haven't just got a flat monotone one color. Okay, so with that done now, I'll go ahead and unplug that from the material output, and then I'll plug the BSDF back in again. And let's bring in some more. So now let's bring in a displacement node. So I'll press Shift A and search for a displacement. I've got it, but you just need to type it in there if you don't. So I'll grab it and bring that in. And with that done, I'm going to plug the vector from the mapping node into the normals. And I'm going to go ahead and plug the factor from the noise texture node into the height of the displacement node. And then I'll go ahead and plug the displacement into the displacement here like this. And now we have some height to our texture. Now this wall is no longer flat. We have some nice details going on. The reason we're seeing colour on this is simply the colour being applied to this wall from the HDRI. It's still simply white. So let's actually grab some colours next. So let's press Shift A and let's bring in a mix colour node. There we go. And we'll bring this in like this. And now let's go ahead and plug the factor from the noise texture mode into the factor from the mix node, from the mix color node. So let's plug this now into our base color. And let's add some colors to this. So I'll start with like a yellowy color like this. There we go. And then this one maybe, I'll take this slightly into the greeny, make it like an apple green color and see what we get. And I think I'm actually going to bring in another mix color node. So I'll grab that one, I'll press Shift D and I'll pull the copy up like this. I'll plug the factor again from the noise texture node back into the factor on this one. And now we need to blend these two together. So I'll grab this one again and I'll press Shift D and I'll bring a copy down to the middle like this. I'll plug this one into B and I'll grab this one here and I'll plug this into A like this. So now we have 4 colors that we can manipulate using this mix color node in the middle. So if I actually just grab this color here and bring this to a really strong color like black, and we can find out where that is now, on which side. So if I go right on this mix color node, I'm actually utilizing the bottom one of these. And if I take this over to the opposite side now, because that's gone really black, that means I'm using this one. And in fact, if I pull this one down as well, you can see now that we're definitely using the top mix color node. So I'll go ahead and take that back up again. And I'll put a different color in this one. Put maybe a slight yellow in it. There we go. And I'll grab this one. I'm actually going to leave this one in the dark. Maybe bring it up a little bit to a bit of grey, and there we go, that's cool. So we've got 4 quite different colours there now in use. And we'll pull the factor back into the middle and see what we've got. And I think for now I will leave that like that because I want to bring in another node again now. So I'll pull this one over and I'll pull this one over. And I'll press Shift A and I'll search for a color ramp. Do I have a color ramp? I do. There we go. And I'll bring this in like this. So using the color ramp now, I can add some darkness or I can add some lightness to this. So I can bring this over and bring more darkness into this wall. Or I can bring the light in and make this wall more light. And that's basically what I do. So I'll bring the darkness out and bring the light in. There we go, that's cool. So what I've actually done here is I've created an interior surface with a huge amount of adjustment. I don't think I'll be able to get this wall the way I want it first time. As I apply some interior lights to this scene and we put some more furniture in it, I'll probably revisit this, but this is in a really good place because we have the ability to put more and more texture or less texture or coarser texture on our wall. We have 4 base colors that I can tweak or change. Then we have the ability to be able to mix those colors, and then we're able to either lighten the wall or darken the wall. So this is so we've created a very controllable texture map here to be able to tweak this wall as we go. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that for now. So I just need to go ahead and apply that material now to the opposite wall. So I'll select this wall now and I'll tap into edit mode with it. And I'll press Shift B and I'll just grab the wall and come in on it a bit. And let's select our surfaces. So I'll grab that one, hold down Control and press that and grab these other ones. Hold Control again and grab this one. And I'll go ahead and hit the plus sign over here. I'll get the drop down here and I'll find the internal wall material and there it is. And I'll go ahead and press Assign. And there we go. It's that easy. We now have our material on this wall as well. Yep, that's looking good. So we can tap out of edit mode with that one now, and then we can go ahead and bring everything back and see what we've got. And yeah, that's looking good. I'm pleased with that. I think there's one more thing I want to do. I want to play around with our stone cladding, because since we've changed our Hdri and we have a much more dynamic light, I've already noticed that it actually looks better if we plug the displacement back in on these. So I'm going to take the displacement from this stone cladding and go ahead and plug that back into here like this and see what we get. And I like that now. I'm pleased with that. I think with this extra lighting in this scene, that really makes it pop. So I've gone ahead and plugged the displacement back in. And again, in the color ramp, if I want to, for the bevel, I can make that lighter or darker accordingly. But at least that extra texture has really made that pop. And I'll do the same for this one now as well. I'll grab the wall cladding and I'll go ahead and plug the displacement back in on this one as well. There we go. That's cool. I like that. That's a lot better. And it's automatically applied the displacement to this one as well, because they're sharing the same material. Okay, so that's cool. In the next lecture, what we'll do is we'll start creating our external render material for the upstairs external sides. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 59. And in this lecture, I want to create our rendered material for the outside of the first floor. I want to do that, and then if we've got time, I also want to apply our interior surface to the top floor too. So let's just see how far we do with that. So let's just grab the top floor here, and let's hit the forward slash key to isolate it. There we go. And I think I'll just bring this down a little bit, go about 50-50 on it. Let's select the object and then just see what the scale and the rotation's like, and it's all fine. So we'll tap into edit mode, we'll press A for all, and we'll press U, and we'll go for a smart UV project. Make sure you've got a gap in the island margins and go ahead and unwrap. Let's have a look at what we got here, and there we go. So there's our UV map. Quite a few components on there, but it's all looking quite neat. So that's good. Okay, so I think now let's go ahead. We'll tap out of edit mode. I don't think we need to be in edit mode anymore. We'll hit the plus key here. We'll click on new, and we'll name this as external render. There we go, and I'll click enter, and there we go. So now we have our material. So let's see what we're going to do with this. Let's make a plan. So I think straight away let's click on the principal BSDF and let's add a texture setup. Let's get rid of the image texture. We're not going to need that. And I think in this case let's delete the mapping as well. I don't think we'll need that. I'll get the texture coordinates and I'll bring this over a little bit. And now I'm going to bring in a new node we've not used before, and it's a weird name. It's called the Voronoi. So I'll press Shift A and search for the Voronoi texture. And do we have it? There it is straight away. So I'll bring this in like this, and I'll plug the object straight away into the vector. And let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to plug the distance straight away into the surface on the output, and now you can see the kind of pattern that we get with the Voronoi. It's quite organic actually, but I think it'll work for us. So we could play around with this if we want. We can click on this one here now, and we can go for different things. So we can go for Manhattan. So yeah, you can play around with these. But I think, for me, I think that this first one, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. I'll leave that as the choice. So now let's go ahead and, whoops, sorry about that. Let's go ahead and scale this. So let's just grab the scale here on the vector and just bring this up. I'll go quite high on this. That makes your eyes feel a little weird. I'll bring that to around 78, 80, around about there. And I'll leave it at that point for now. Okay, so now it's time to bring in another node. So I'll bring in a displacement node. So I'll press Shift A and search for a displacement node, and there we go. And I'll drop this in as well. Bring this down a little bit maybe, and I'll plug the displacement. I'll plug the object from the texture coordinates straight into the normals. And now I'll go and plug the displacement directly into the displacement on the output. And there we go. That's cool. Let's go ahead and unplug the Voronoi now from the material output. And what should we do next? Let's plug the BSDF back into the surface. And there we go. So now we need to start creating some colors. So I think I'll bring in a mix color. So let's press Shift A and we'll search for a mix color, and we'll bring this in like this. Let's plug this into the factor, and let's go and grab another one of this. So I'll press Shift D. Sorry, I won't do that. I'll just grab this and I'll press Shift D and bring up a copy like this. And now I'll do the same again. I'll press Shift D and bring another copy into the middle like this. I'll grab these two nodes here, hit G and bring them further over. And now I'll start plugging these in. So I'll plug the distance from the Voronoi texture into the factor of this mix color. And then I'll go ahead and plug this one into the bottom of this mix color, and then this one into the top like this. And now I'll go for a color ramp on this as well. So I'll press Shift A and search for a color ramp. There it is, and I'll bring this in and drop it there. And I'll drop that into the factor, and then the color into the color on the base color. And there we go. So we're starting to get somewhere now. Let's zoom in on this corner so we can see what we're doing. So the next thing I need to do is actually get this pattern to show here. So if I go ahead and plug the distance from the Voronoi into the height of the displacement. And there we go. So now we're starting to get our pattern showing. And that's looking pretty good for a rendered surface. I think I'm pleased with that. So we can go ahead and play with the scale a little bit here, maybe take it up some more. And yeah, I'd say that's about right. That's the kind of effect that I'm trying to achieve with this render. And I can play around with the roughness, maybe in this case bring the roughness up. I don't want this to shine, and we could try bringing the detail up a little bit as well. And there we go. How's that now? Maybe bring the scale down a little bit, maybe a little bit more, and bring the detail to about there. How's that? How's that looking for a render? And I think for a rendered surface, that's looking pretty good now. I think I'm pleased with that. And again, the beauty of this is we can always tweak it if we decide to at any stage. I could reduce the scale a little bit more, just increase the size, maybe even a bit more. And yeah, is that better? Maybe reduce this even further now. And now that's pretty good now. Yeah, I'm liking that. I'll leave that just there. Okay, so let's bring some colors in now. So to highlight the dark areas, I'll bring in quite a black color. And there we go. And let's just bring this factor over and make sure that we do actually have that in there. And yeah, there it is there. And let's go ahead and bring that right down to the black. And now let's bring in another color. Let's bring in a slightly creamy color. There we go. So now we've got the two colors showing in that wall there now. And now let's bring the factor back to the middle. And now let's grab this one. And now let's bring in another quite dark color. I'll bring in a sort of middle gray. There we go. And I'll also bring in another light color too. I'll take this slightly into the sort of the green, light green colour, like that. And then we can go ahead and play with a factor, as we know, just mixing from one colour or the other. And then the next thing to do is look at the colour ramp, and now we have sort of adjustability in the lightness or darkness of our material, and we can go ahead and do whatever we want with that. And I'll leave that kind of, I think about there is working for me. So I think the next thing I want to do is maybe put a bevel on this. So let's bring in our bevel nodes that we know. So we'll grab this, bring it over, grab this one. There we go, that's good. So I'll press Shift A and I'll search for a bevel node, and there it is. I'll bring this in, and then we'll bring our geometry node in. So Shift A, search for geometry. Is that there? There it is at the top, and bring this in as well. And now we'll bring our vector math in. There it is, and bring that one in. And now a color ramp. I won't copy for this one because I want to have one with default settings. So I'll press Shift A and search for the color ramp and bring this in as well. Okay, let's bring this up like this now. And we also need a mix shader. So I'll press Shift A and search for a mix shader. And there it is. And let's plug that in here like this. Okay, so now let's go ahead and plug the normals from the geometry into the bottom one here. Oh, I've got the wrong one here. I'm sorry. Let me delete this. My fault completely. I hope you didn't follow me. Let's press Shift A and search for the bevel node. And there it is. That's the one I wanted. My fault. Apologies. So let's plug the normal from the bevel node into the vector here, and plug the normal from the geometry into the vector here. Let's make sure that we're not on add, we're actually on dot. So dot product, and now plug that into the fac on the color ramp. And now let's go ahead and plug that for now directly into the output to see what we get. And yeah, that's cool. That's what we want. So I could try increasing the radius just slightly. And yeah, that's more like the effect that I'm after. Cool. Let's go plug this now from the color ramp into the fac on the mix shader, and go ahead and plug the mix shader now into the output. And there we go. Now we can see the darkness on that edge. We can tweak that if we want to, bring that more prominent, bring some white over, and there we go. You can see that corner now darkening quite nicely. So that's, again, really completely up to you. I could try increasing the radius on that. There we go, maybe more. That's looking better, I think. And I could try tweaking these to bring them darker or lighter until I'm kind of happy with the effect. Don't want to go too much with it. I think I will leave that. Maybe that's too much. Bring that over, and I think I'll leave that there like that. Yep, that's good. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is actually apply some more materials to the internal surfaces. So let's do that next. So let's tap into edit mode with this, and let's hit the plus key here to bring in another material to this component. Let's hit the little drop down here, and let's search for our internal surface, internal walls, and there it is. And now let's start selecting. This might take a few minutes, but we can get it done. So I'll select this one, and then this corner here too, and this one, this corner here too, and this one, and this one, and this one, those two, this corner, and this corner, and this corner here, and this upper one here, and this one, and this one, those two, And I think I'll go for the floor as well. And this floor as well. And we'll go for... where else should we go? This corner here is missing some. And in the bathroom or in the hallway, any others? This one here. And this one, and then this one. And this one. And the floor in here, and this one too. And I think that'll do for my first selection. We don't have to do it all in one go. So I'll click select internal walls and assign. And there we go. So we're starting to get that now. I'll tap out of edit mode for a sec, just to have a look at the results. And yeah, that's looking good. I like these inside reflections now. That's looking really nice how the sun's creating these nice reflections internally. So let's carry on with this. So I'll tap into edit mode again, and let's just carry on where we left off. So I'll select maybe this wall, and this wall, and this one, and this one, this one, this one, and this one, of course, in this corner. And oops, I'll leave that there like that, I think. And this, I'll leave this on the rendered surface, just on these ones. And we'll go for this one, of course. And this one, and this one here, and this one. This corner here. Let's have a look up top. This corner. And in here. And let's go ahead and assign that to the internal walls as well. Let's check that we haven't missed any. And I've missed this corner here, so I'll select maybe this one here and assign to the internal walls. And is there any others? Okay, let's look at the underside now actually. So I'll select this one and this one. And is that all of them? This one here, and this one, and this one, this one, and this one, and this one. And is that all of them? I think it is, so I'll select internal walls here again and assign. And there we go. Okay, so I'll tap out of edit mode with that. And yeah, that's cool. I'm liking this rendered pattern. That's looking really rather good. That's super cool. Let's bring everything back now and see how our model looks. And yeah, that's looking really good. I think there's actually one more thing I want to do in this lecture. So we're close, but we're not close enough. So let's re-isolate this item and let's tap into edit mode again. And let's create a fresh material again inside here. So let's hit the plus sign for a new material. We'll hit the little drop down here and we'll search for the wall cladding. And there it is, and I'll select that. Maybe I'll select the O1 so we don't have the grimy bevel on it. And I'm going to select this wall here. And I'm going to select this wall here. And I'll select this wall here. And with those selected and the wall cladding highlighted, I'll click assign. Now the scale is all out, so let's go over to our UV editor and grab our UV maps. And let's hit S and scale this up to reduce the size of the wall cladding. And then let's zoom out a little and we'll press R for rotate and 90 enter. And let's see what we got. And yeah, I'm pleased with that scale, and I think this will be quite striking inside the bathroom. I think that's quite a nice effect. Okay, so let's tap out of edit mode for this now and see how that looks. And yeah, that's really looking good. I'm pleased with that as an effect. Okay, so let's bring everything back again and let's zoom out on it and see what we got. And this is looking really good. I'm liking this. This is looking great. I'm liking our HDRI, the way it's applying light to our house. It's really quite dynamic and making it look really, really realistic. Even though we're nowhere near finished yet, it's already starting to pop. I'm liking the reflection in the glass, and I'm liking the light on this cladding. It's looking good. Okay, so what should we do in the next lecture? What shall be the plan? I think in the next lecture, let's go up some more. So let's have a look at applying some textures to the roof here, and maybe even to our center piece of sort of whatever we call this piece here. Let's apply some colors and some textures to that as well. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye bye for now. Okay, hello and welcome now to lecture 60. And in this lecture, yeah, let's have a go at the roofs. Let's see what we can do with that. So let's just grab the roof and isolate it and check the scale, and it's all good. So let's go ahead and apply the UV map. So we'll tap into edit mode, press A for all, and press U, and let's go ahead and smart UV project. Make sure you've got an island margin and click unwrap. Check the UV maps, see what they look like, and that's nice and neat. That's fine. Alright, so I'll tap out of edit mode for the minute, and I'll click on the plus sign here, and click on new material, and we'll call this the roof, and click enter. And now let's find our material, and here it is. Let's grab our BSDF, and let's go to the Node Wrangler and add principal setup. Find your textures wherever you save them, and I think that's in other. Let's go in that, and roof material, and we'll press A to grab all of them, and principal texture setup. Alright, so that's not too bad, but the scale is a little bit big for me, I think. So I'm just going to come over here to the scale here and just increase this to maybe a 5, and let's see what we get at that. And it's already improving, but let's go some more. So let's try a 10-ish and see what we get with that. Definite improvement, and we'll go some more, maybe a 20. And yeah, that's kind of the effect that I'm after. Maybe even a little bit more. Let's try for 30. And yeah, that's absolutely fine. Now that's exactly the effect that I'm after. Okay, so that was easy. So now let's tap into edit mode with it. And let's select this top face here. And then sort of roll around to the bottom so you can see the underside edge. That's a little close about there. Hold down Control and press plus to expand on the selection until it comes around over the top and around halfway around that bevel. So you got kind of that selected all the way around. Once you've got that, go ahead and hit the plus sign here and click on new, and let's call this roof rubber. And click enter. And with that done and roof rubber selected, let's go and assign. Okay, so let's grab our principal BSDF, add principal setup. Let's find that roof rubber material. There it is. And we'll press A to select all of them, and then we'll add principal texture setup. Okay, so let's see how that looks now. And we can tap out of edit mode now so we can see it quite clearly. And it's okay, but the scale I'd say is a little bit big. So let's increase this. Let's try the 10 mark. And see how we're looking. And I think we could go up even more. Let's try the 20. And let's even go to sort of 30. Let's see what that looks like. What we could do now is just try rotating that. So on the Z on the rotation here, let's just try turning that. And see if that helps the effect that we're getting. And it does, it kind of just breaks up that line, gives it something a bit different. And there we go, let's see what that looks like. And let's tap out of edit mode or just deselect it. And it's looking good. I like that we've got it like a two-tone on the roof. So we've got this very reflective black material here. Then we've got the rubber here as well, which is a lot less reflective. Maybe just to try increasing the scale a little bit more here. And yep, I think I like that now. I'm going to go one more time up to the 50. Why not? And I'll leave that just like that. That's fine. Okay, so the only thing is I don't want this black here on the underside. So let's tap in again. Select this surface here. And let's hit the plus sign. And let's click on the drop down here. And we'll look for internal walls. And we'll select that. And with that selected, internal walls highlighted, let's assign. Okay, let's tap out of edit mode now. And let's go ahead and bring everything back and see how our roof looks. Yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking how we've just got that 2 levels of reflection on the roof. I mean, the colours are quite similar, but it stands out really a lot because of the really reflective material and the rubber as well. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. So now let's go for this structure here in the middle. So I'll isolate that. So let's start by checking the scale, and the scale's all good. So let's tap into edit mode with it, and press A for all, and U, and Smart UV Project. Make sure you get an island margin, and click Unwrap. And let's have a look, see what we got. And yeah, that's all looking good. So over here, go ahead and hit the plus sign, and click on New, and let's call this material Cedar. And click enter. And now let's grab our principal BSDF, add principal texture setup. Make sure that you got Cedar selected in your texture file set. So it's right there. And let's press A to grab all and add principal texture setup. Alright, so with it all still selected like that, let's grab everything here. And let's press R, 90, and click enter. And let's see what we've got. And it's looking good, but I think the scales are a little bit much yet. So let's go ahead and adjust that. Maybe let's take that up to even 20. Let's try that. 20 might be a little much, but let's see. Yeah, 20 is a bit much. Let's try 9. That's looking better, isn't it? Maybe let's bring that down even to an 8. Thereabouts, anyway. And yep, that's about right for me. I think that's looking good. Let's check the other surfaces and make sure that they're making sense too. And it's looking good underneath, and the sides are looking correct. It's looking good. That's really cool. So I'll tap out of edit mode for a moment and see what we've got. And I like it, but it needs a little something. It's just, I think we just need to apply the bevel modifier to this. Just to the bevel node, just to get some darkening on the edges. So let's do that as well. So let's grab these ones here and pull them over to make us some space. And yeah, let's do what we do. So let's bring in the bevel. So let's press Shift A and let's search for the bevel. And there it is, bring that in. And the next one is, what is it? It's the geometry node. Let's bring that in. And we want the vector math. The vector math, let's bring that in. And now let's bring in the color ramp. Bring that in. And now we just want to mix shader. So Shift A, search for mix shader, and bring that in as well. And there we go. Okay, so I think let's go ahead and turn the add into dot product. Plug the normals into the top one and the normals here into the bottom one. Plug the value into the FAC on the color ramp. And now let's go ahead and plug this directly into the material output and see what we've got. So it's kind of darkening everything, which might put a nice effect on it. We could try that, or we could unplug the displacement, and then that would just do the edges. Let's try with the displacement connected for a moment and see what that effect is. So let's plug that into there again, and let's play around with the color ramp. It might give us the effect that might be interesting. If not, then we'll just unplug the displacement. Let's plug that into the top one on the mix shader. Plug the BSDF into the bottom of the mix shader, and now plug this into the material output and see what we get. Is that an effect we like? Bring a little bit more darkness out of it, lighten it up a bit. And do I like that? Does that, I might bring everything back actually. And no, I don't think I do. I'm going to unplug the displacement and do what I really wanted to do with that. So I'll zoom in a little bit, and let's try bringing up the color ramp to bring more blackness into this. Let's try increasing the radius on the bevel to maybe 1.5. And we'll just try tweaking these around till I can see a nice level of darkness on the edge of these now. There we go. Now I can see some nice darkness. Try bringing the black over a bit more. Yeah, that's good. That's more the effect that I was trying to achieve. I'm liking that now. That's much better. We've got something looking a bit more real there now. Some contrast in edges looking good. Okay, so that's it for this lecture. So in the next lecture, what should we do next? I think let's look at the floors in the next lecture. Let's see what we can do with those. That's the last big blocks, if you like, that we have to do. After that, we'll be moving to smaller objects. So yeah, let's do the floors in the next lecture. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.